Thank you for your patience as we set up for the next session. I know that you're going to hear this many times, I hope today, but let me extend my congratulations to your admitted student and welcome you to campus. My name is Marilyn Hesser, and I'm the Senior Associate Director of Admission at the University of Richmond. And I have the good fortune of being the moderator of this session with my colleagues called Supporting and Developing Your Richmond Spider. I've worked in college admission for over 30 years. And as a young professional, I recall identifying with the applicant and the student's experience. And as their birth dates got younger and younger, one day I woke up and I realized I identified with you, the parents. So my goal is to retire from college admission before I start identifying with the grandparents. And then I have a friend who calls me and says, my grandson or granddaughter is visiting Richmond, and I really want you to show them around. So, but seriously, I've walked through the process with my 3 young adult children, so I believe I understand many of the questions that you might have at this stage. And I can tell you that there are no better people at the University of Richmond to address those questions than the panelists that we have here for you today. So the first thing and this will be a session where you're going to give them all the questions. However, I want them to start by introducing themselves and the role that their office plays at the University of Richmond.
Marilyn, can this roll back a little bit because I can't see that side of the room? Okay. Yeah, no, come forward.
No.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
yeah, but I
We'll just lean
can't
in.
see anybody over there. Oh, where should we start?
Oh, it started with me. Hi, everyone. Good morning. You're also part of class 2021, too. Hi, my name is Tanisha Dixon. I am one of 5 area coordinators that represents the Office of Residence Life and Undergraduate Student Housing. I also work with West Hampton College, which is our undergraduate college for women-identified students here. I'm happy to answer any and all of your questions, and hopefully I can be a good support system to you as much as I will be for your students in the years to come.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Bowman. I'm the Dean of Richmond College, which is the coordinate college to West Hampton. How many folks knew that we had coordinate colleges before this moment? Okay, well, a few. That's good. Yes, we have a coordinate structure here at the university, and that grows out of our history. The university was founded in 1840 as Richmond College, a college for men. In 1914, West Hampton College was created when we moved to this beautiful campus. And we have been operating in this space since that time for a little over 100 years. But what we are really about, and we are no different from any other campus where you're going to be, where you're going to have a dean of students, all right? So the West Hampton College, Richmond College offices are your deans of students. We're responsible for the out-of-classroom success of the students on this campus. But we also have an interesting role that grew out of that history, is that we have a connection with academic affairs. Both myself and Dean Mia Reynosa Giannoni, who is the Dean of West Hampton, are Associate Deans of the School of Arts and Sciences, which means that we are also responsible for the in-classroom success of your students. So one of the things that we say is that if there's a concern, whether it comes from the faculty member or from one of you, the quick answer is call the deans, and we will work with the students to get them to whatever resources, including all of our colleagues here on the stage.
Great. Morning, everybody. My name is Lisa Miles. I work in the Office of Common Ground. Common Ground's been here 10 years. We're the university's diversity and inclusion initiative. We're here to make sure that all students, no matter what your background, how you identify, what your religion, your ethnicity, your race, your gender, sexuality, etc., you feel like you can come here and you can thrive here, right? So we are really here about making sure that our increasingly diverse community, of which we are very, very proud, is creating opportunities for everyone equally. So whether it's when you go to the dining hall, I don't think that was me, but you just never know. I don't think so.
We're not really microphone people.
No, we're really not. It's much more, one-on-one here on a daily basis. From when your child goes to the dining hall, and whether they're vegetarian or vegan or gluten-free or kosher or eat only halal meat, et cetera, we want to make sure that they can eat anything that's going to be comfortable and appropriate for their diet, all the way to whether they attend classes and where they celebrate their holidays and how they identify and how they show up, and if they're first-generation college students, if they are international students, how do they feel when they come to our campus, right? And how are we making space for everybody to really feel like this place is for me and I'm going to be everything I can possibly be here. So that's what we do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chantel Bernard. I'm the Associate Director of Multicultural Affairs and Disability Services. So I have two hats that I wear. What does the Office of Multicultural Affairs do? We provide academic, social, and transition support services to our students that are underserved and underrepresented. And that just doesn't extend just to students in that way, because our goal is to really extend students in the general student body to students that are that feel like they're underserved and underrepresented. So what we do in that way is we promote dialogue. We promote involvement, because our goal is to make sure that students are intersecting with one another and they don't see themselves in any type of disadvantaged or underserved way. Our goal is to make sure that we provide awareness opportunities. I like to see our office exercise 3 pillars. We're programmatic, we are responsive, and we're transformative. So in that way, we provide lots of services in terms of leadership. We do affinity groups and support one-on-one type of opportunities. So as students are sort of trying on different identities, believe it or not, they're going to try on some different identities. They're going to try on all types of things. And our goal is to make sure that they establish some congruence. So as they become whole and well and thrive in our community, we want to make sure that they are congruent human beings as they go out into the world in the future. So that's what we do.
Hi, and good morning. My name is Andy Gurka. I am the Director of Living Learning and Roadmap Programs here at the university. So your student is going to take 4, maybe 5 classes this first semester at Richmond. Most semesters at Richmond, they'll take 4 or 5 classes. It's about 3 hours of class time a week where they'll physically be, their butt will be in a seat, right, in a classroom. So if you do the math, which I was bad at in college, 15 hours a week or so in the classroom. That leaves a whole lot of time outside the classroom, right? And how do you fill your time outside of the classroom, right? And so what a lot of us think about in student development is how can we make sure that students are being productive and that they are using their time wisely outside of class. So you come to a small, private, liberal arts college and university like the University of Richmond that talks about high contact with faculty, that talks about you're not going to get lost, right? You're not a number here. Everybody knows you, which are all true things, like you don't fall through the cracks here. You don't go to class, people notice, all those things. But what we try to do in student development, and what my office does along with our partner, with the rest of the folks up here, is what we try to do is connect a student's academic experience, what we call their curricular experience, with their out-of-classroom experience. And that is what we would call our co-curricular experience, right? And so we do that in lots of ways. So most of our students live on campus. The fine folks in admissions can tell you the exact percentage, because I can't remember it right now, of students who choose to live on campus all 4 years. It's in the upper 90s percentile, right, of students who choose to live on campus all 4 years. And what we try to do is connect faculty and staff in meaningful ways to students outside the classroom. So we run living learning communities where students live together, take class together, do research together, travel together in their first year and in their sophomore year in intentional, meaningful ways with faculty members. We offer pre-semester programs where students can come back early to the university and actually engage with a faculty member who will be their academic advisor throughout their experience here at the university. We offer faculty who live in the residence halls. We have faculty connected with every residence hall on campus so that we can continue the dialogue and the programming outside of the class that they're engaging in inside the classroom.
Thank you. So now I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about what you think is unique about your office in comparison to other liberal arts colleges or colleges like ours, or the experiences of students that you found that are unique that you work with. Let's start right back.
Oh, you went back to me. Wow, sorry. I apologize to you all. I can clearly talk and talk fast. Anybody from the Midwest? I'm a Midwesterner. Yay! Any Wisconsinites? Yay! I love Wisconsin. That's where I grew up. I love Wisconsin. My mom still lives there. It's fun to visit in the summer. I love winters here in Richmond. Anyways, so I would say one of the ways that I think are what we do here at Richmond is unique is so we offer a very distinctive residential learning experience for students, right? Students are allowed to sign up and apply to live in living learning communities. We have 10 different living learning communities that students can do in their first year. So that means about a fourth of the first year class participates in one, where they live together, take class together, taught by a tenure stream faculty member, by a tenured faculty member. They have out-of-classroom experiences together. They have a fall break experience here in the city of Richmond, where over that break, they're having an intense sort of fun experiential life of the university in the city of Richmond over fall break. We carry that forward. We have a really innovative program called Sophomore Scholars in Residence that I oversee, where we work with faculty, and that's a year-long program students apply to be a part of. They take 2 classes together, they live together, they travel together, they do research together, all on the university's dime. So let me give you an example. So we have a faculty member who teaches a class. We have 2 faculty members that teach a biology class. It's called Out of the Sea. And the class is a biology class about evolution and about how the role of oceans in evolution and in the world, right? So typical kind of biology class. Great, you would imagine you could take a class like that at a liberal arts university, right? So the students sign up, they apply to be a part of it, they live together in a section of a residence hall, they take this class. On several weekends throughout the fall semester, they're out on the James River. They actually go down to the Chesapeake Bay, where the James River flows into the ocean, and are doing field work with the faculty member and the faculty members who are doing that. Then over winter break, we fly them as a community to Belize, where we go to where Belize has the second largest visible coral reef in all of North America. And so we spend 6 days snorkeling and doing research on sponges and coral reef and on a boat, not throwing up, and from seasickness, that's a joke, haha, they're not throwing up, and get to do really cool research in the lab, in the field with a faculty member. They come back from that experience the rest of their sophomore year, they're doing research in groups with that faculty member, where they will then present their research results to the university community, which that community actually delivers their research results tomorrow night, actually, to the university. And so that is a program that students can sign up to be a part of. Again, the university pays for 100% of it, so the trip to Belize is totally covered by the university. All those other things. It's our investment in students as scholars, and I think you will see that over and over again when we talk about research fellowships or we talk about internship funding and all that. The university invests in your student as a scholar. They and then invest in us, right? They invest in the university and in their faculty member and in their community as scholars as well. And so that investment we take seriously, and we think is a really unique, distinct aspect of the University of Richmond.
Thanks, Andy. So I will try to not top that, but just try to add a little bit of a different lens of what the Office of Multicultural Affairs does different than other universities. Many other universities don't house their Disability Services Office within the Office of Multicultural Affairs, but we do. So that's one thing that we do different. We also house a scholars program that is connected to the Richmond Scholars Office. So we house that program as well. So we have an Oliver Hill Scholars program. So we do have an academic component. So I think I remember telling you that we're responsive, we are transformative, and that we're programmatic. So we liaise a lot with our colleagues on this panel, where we do a lot of working together. So we are collaborative with student involvement. I think we have over 250 student organizations on campus. So some of them have cultural undertones. So we support our students in that way. So one of the student groups on campus is the West Indian Link. And these are students that hail from the Caribbean. So they have their own showcase that students can get to experience Caribbean foods, and they do all kinds of fun programs. I'm a student advisor for the South Asian Student Union, and they are students from the Middle East and students from India, and so we work with them when they have their Bollywood showcase. So students have all types of opportunities to experience different cultures, to support each one another, to continue their involvement with their cultural identity. We also send programmatically, and from a standpoint of leadership, we send students to different leadership conferences. So this year we sent over 30 students to different leadership conferences. So we sent students to the United States Latino Hispanic Heritage Institute. And that was in Chicago. That was fully paid for. So that's another opportunity that we provide students. They don't have to find the money. We just make all the arrangements, and we are awaiting their return. We send our African American students to their leadership student experience. So those are some of the things that we do from a leadership standpoint. And then I'll get to the fun part. And this is the part that's near and dear to my heart, and that is the responsive arm of our office. We're moms. So we basically mother. We're just there for all students. I'm a mom of a 10-year-old, and I feel like that I'll be in Marilyn's chair soon. Where I'll be sitting in the chair, holding my hands together really tight and trying to keep from crying as my child is going on to college. And so what we try to do is really just meet them where they are. We are there to hug. We're there to, I'm a counselor as well, so I do a lot of counseling in my office when students just want to walk in and just talk about what's bothering them at any level. So that's one of the other things that we do. And so overall, I think from a standpoint of collaboration, leadership, being responsive, that's how our office is different. I'm going to speak really quickly about the disability services piece. So when I mentioned that we serve students that are underserved and underrepresented, I'm speaking about students that have hidden disabilities or students that have disabilities that we can see. So my office supports the disability services sector of our university. We partner with the Student Health Center. We also partner with the Counseling and Psychological Services Center, of which I'm a part of as well. And so in that way, we intake students who have disabilities, and we allow them to fill out an application. We allow them to talk about what types of accommodations they need to thrive in the classroom. We are currently working with our faculty very closely to make sure that our faculty are equally as aware of how our students are thriving in the classroom, either in a hidden way or in a way where they need to support the student outright and allow them to be able to be the best students they can be. So those are ways I think that we're different than other universities, and I feel that we really excel, and we've done some really good data mining to be able to speak to that. So thank you. Sorry.
All right, so I'm pretty sure that you're not going to find another Office of Common Ground wherever you go. If you find one, let me know, but I'm pretty sure we're the only ones. So, but I think there are two populations that we directly serve in our office because they're not served anywhere else. So that's the LGBTQ population, has a dedicated associate director to help students around sexuality and gender identity issues. So there's that piece. And then I support first-generation college students. U of R is about 14 or 15% first generation, first in their families to go to college and receive a bachelor's degree. That's very exciting. They're pioneers, changing the whole pathway of their whole family's economic opportunities. So we support them. But in a quick snapshot, some of the ways that we might do that is right at orientation, we might bring first generation students and their parents together to give them a little bit of extra sense of kind of what it's like to be a college student and who can you ask if you have some questions. And then we might be doing some social justice work with training student leaders, and we also have a social justice retreat. You're interested in kind of talking about your identity and understanding some of the people around you, then we're going to take you off campus to a beautiful retreat center. Again, no cost to your son or daughter, and really create opportunities to kind of learn from the people who are different than you. Our society is pretty segregated in terms of neighborhoods, right? So depending, you might live in a place that you think is more diverse than Richmond, but many of our students think, wow, this place is more diverse than my high school. So it's our job to really help students figure out, how do I get to know somebody with a different religion, who comes from another country, who is queer and I'm not. Those kind of things, take a little time, and we want to develop opportunities for students to learn to talk to each other across difference. We might get to Thanksgiving, and we realize that students who live at a real distance may not be able to head home, right? So it's just not practical. It's a tough time to travel. We're 10% international. They're not going home for Thanksgiving. It doesn't even matter to them in their country, right? So for 5 years, we've been offering a Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving, now most recently the day before, which is also a holiday on our campus, when our dining hall closes, for about 70 students who stay. And faculty and staff volunteer their time, and the dining service makes us a beautiful meal that we just have to heat up. And then we have this, thank goodness, because you don't want me cooking the whole thing for 70. It's outside my skill set. But I can heat up. So, we take one of the dining halls and we fill it with students and, that kind of thing, making sure that the experience of students coming from a distance is really warm and welcoming, right? And then fast forward to this week when we are going to be on Wednesday night celebrating the experience of our queer students who are graduating and their allies, right? So we are going to have lavender graduation. It's not actually a graduation. ceremony, but it is a wonderful dinner and an opportunity for us to recognize the students who've walked through their collegiate experience understanding themselves to be gay or lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. And the allies who have really been working hard to make sure that this is a comfortable place for them, right? And they'll have wonderful speakers and a delicious dinner, and they'll get a lavender cord that they can wear at graduation if they choose to. That just helps us recognize that it's not easy, right, to feel different in that way in college, and that they've got a whole team behind them, and then they meet some of the folks in our LGBTQ Alumni Association who welcomes them into networking opportunities as an alum. So that's a snapshot of some of the kinds of things that we do in the office to make sure every student's feeling really comfortable here.
I mentioned part of our uniqueness is the fact that we have this coordinate college structure. And one of the ways that we operationalize it within Richmond College is that we talk about what it means to be a man in today's world. And how does society's messaging about masculinity influence how they perceive themselves. And it shows itself in a lot of different ways. Number one, it shows itself in the ways that young men seek for help. And we find that a lot of young men don't seek help because the messages that society have told them is that it's unmanly to do so. So one of the things that we try to do is break down that stereotype. And we start right from orientation. There are many other stereotypes that we try to break down about perceptions of masculinities and how do they relate to them in today's world. But we start right during orientation. We do sessions as part of the orientation where we have a meeting with all of the students of Richmond College. We have a session about masculinities at the same time that West Hampton is doing their session. And then we flip so that everyone is getting the same message about what we are trying to do about talking about how we perceive men and masculinities in today's world. We do a number of different talks and lectures throughout the year that relate to, again, how people perceive themselves, how society perceives men and masculinities, and really good conversations about that with our students. One program that we did about a year ago, we put a physical man box. This was a 4-by-4 foot structure in the lobby of the dining hall, and had prompt questions on there like, what does it mean to be a man? What are the challenges that you face? Things along that line. And we had kind of what we called an actual virtual reality wall, where they were writing comments and reacting to one another. It was like Facebook only in real life. It was kind of interesting. But then we also we support a number of causes that are important, I feel important to me, important to those of us in the college. For example, the White Ribbon Campaign, which is an international effort of men ending men's violence against women. That's something that we support annually. If your students are here in the fall, and we hope that they are, they're going to be hearing about it right from day one.
So to echo some of Joe's sentiments in West Hampton College, there's a lot of talk of us really being able to examine what being a woman is, how to identify as a woman, and sort of how to expand that definition of womanhood. And so I think for me, that's been really refreshing to be here and be able to have those conversations. And so to echo the other side of that is saying, you know, what does it mean to identify as a woman? So within and outside and expansive of the binary, but also to say, what does identifying as a woman mean, you know, across all sorts of identities, and what does that mean to be intersectional in those identities? And so one of the great experiences that I've had this year is being able to co-chair the Connecting Women of Color Conference, which is a great way for our campus community and even, you know, at large to be able to say, what does it mean specifically to be both a woman and a person of color, and what does that intersectional piece look like? This year we've expanded sort of our definition and our understanding of womanhood to include those who identify as women outside of the binary. And so I think those conversations are really important and overlap with some of the things that you've heard from some of my colleagues up here. I'll also say one of the things that really stick out to me about West Hampton College is the physical space. Space informs us about how we feel about where we belong, right? And so for me, working at West Hampton College, working at the deanery is a really great thing. It's literally like being at home. And so for most of you, having, you know, your children and you know, being away from home for the first time for, you know, extended period of time is going to be lots of emotions. And so to be able to work in a space that was the home of our first dean of the college is a pretty awesome thing. And so being able to say my staff meetings are in our living room and we're hanging out on the couch of the first dean that you know, lived here and worked here and sort of blazed a trail for women to be educated here. pretty awesome thing to do. And I think our space, I think the West Hampton College Deanery is a space that allows students to be able to come and go and say, this is a piece of home that maybe I'm not necessarily, that I'm missing out on being away from home, whether you're down the street, down I-95, or even around the world. And so I really love that. We have 2 kitchens in our deanery, so if your children want to cook their favorite meal from back home, they can certainly do that. Lots of students we're seeing more students stopping by and just sort of hanging out in the living room and saying, hey, like I have an exam tomorrow, right? And so if I'll step out and say, hey, how's it going? And it's a way for me to engage with students and, just in between classes. And I'll say the last thing about the deanery is that it really allows our students to really know who their dean is. I can't tell you who my dean was when I was in college. And so I think it's really great to not only say, Dean, Mia Giannoni is my dean, my academic dean, and my college dean, but be able to put a face to that name, to be able to say, who is this person that's going to oversee my academic and holistic success here, and who are the people that support her in doing that. And so I really love to be able to say that I work in a space that looks like home, it feels like home, but also I can actually put names and faces together, and I think that our students have a real benefit from that.
So we have a few minutes for you to ask questions, and I'm hoping someone has already been pondering that. If you can, we have a mic, if someone will raise their hand and tell me. Yes, right here in the middle, Cindy.
Sure.
How to find out more about the living and learning community.
Yes. So you can come see me after this. I'm happy to tell you more about it. You can go on our website, which is just livinglearning.richmond.edu. Or today from 11:30 to 1:30, we'll be on the forum, the big brick plaza outside the dining hall. It's conveniently located right out where you'll be eating. And you can come out there and talk to current students who are participating in the program, as well as my staff who will be out there, who will give out lots of literature about all of those things.
Yes.
What is the difference between Richmond College and West Hampton College, and how are the students sorted into the two of them?
So the question is, what is the difference between Richmond College and West Hampton College, and how students are sorted between them?
Sure, and probably the easiest way to put it is that in the operationalizing of how a student works their way through the day, there's not a difference. Our students identify typically male or female, but if a student identifies outside of the binary, we work with them, and it's a combination of all 3 of our offices that we try to figure out where a student might land. Now, yes.
Right.
Great. Okay. Makes it easy then.
Yes, 2 questions up here, Cindy. If you can wait for her to.
Mine's a simple one. Is any of this written down? Because you do talk fast and I don't have pen and paper. And you said a lot of interesting things. I want to know if there's someplace I can go because my memory's not that great.
Yep.
Yes, so in your agenda, you have the panelists and the offices that everything that they've said is basically can be found on their website.
Absolutely.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes?
Can you tell me, I'm really drilling down now because we're trying to decide where to go, so. I noticed like in your psychology classes, almost all of them is the class and then like a 20-minute lab. And I'm wondering how much is research for each of the classes versus pure academic?
So I think in psychology, I think as you look at any university, right, you have to have a base knowledge, right? So when you're taking Psych 101, when you're taking Psych 100, I think you're going to get a pretty academic experience. You're not going to get you're going to get exposed to research, especially the research of that faculty member or faculty members who teach that class. But you're not going to be in a lab that first semester doing research with a faculty member. Psych 200, for instance, is research methods and theories. That is literally in a lab working with a faculty member and doing that. And I think as you get higher up, right, into the 300 level and 400 level courses, those are where the classes become even smaller. And then you get the one-on-one time with faculty members to do that. I think what I encourage students to do, so for instance in psychology, right, all of the faculty all hold labs. They all have labs, they all have students working in their labs. And so if we have a faculty member who has a lab on aging and longevity, where she works with centenarians, right, people who live to be over 100 years old. And so if you know, a faculty of students like, I really want to get involved, like, go talk to the faculty member, All of our faculty members hold office hours, and for those of you who don't know what an office hour is, or office hours are, it's where faculty literally sit in their offices with their door open and don't do anything but wait for students to come in. I'm sure they're doing something if nobody's coming by, so don't go around telling people that. But it is time that they are it's dedicated hours during the week where they're just waiting for students to come in. And so all of us tell students the best way to get to know a faculty member is to go to one of their office hours. They're sitting there waiting for you. Go talk to them, ask them questions about their research, ask them about how they got to where they are. Faculty have really interesting stories and life stories, and that's the beautiful part about a place like Richmond with a small faculty-student ratio, that you can get to know individual faculty members. So I know a first-year student, she was my advisee, she was really interested in chemistry, and so she went and made a connection with a chemistry faculty member, and she now is going to work in her lab for 10 weeks this summer.
And there's another question a couple seats down from you.
Hello. I'd like to ask the question about the two colleges, the West Hampton and Richmond College. Trying to wrap my brain around what that really means in terms of it's a co-ed university and you're in the college of, you're in the business school, or you're in Jepson, or you're, pardon me, arts and natural sciences. What does that mean then? So I have a daughter, so obviously she's in West Hampton, but what does that mean actually in reality? How does that play out? How is that distinct?
Well, students will definitely declare a major at some point in their academic career, and so whether that's in the Jepson School, whether it's the Rodman School of Business, or it's in Arts and Sciences, they still have an affinity to Richmond or West Hampton College. And so I would think of West Hampton and Richmond College not necessarily as academic colleges, but it's a unit of support for them. And so they are still part of the University of Richmond. They're a University of Richmond alum in 2021, but they will still have that affinity to West Hampton College and to Richmond College. So their academic experience will be co-educational, but they will have affinity to their respective colleges. Along the lines of gender identity, how they see fit.
Yeah, the way that I tend to break it down for folks is that we have a 3,000 student undergraduate population. The colleges further break down that unit, and one of the things that research tells us that the closer you can get to smaller numbers, right, that's why we value small class size, that the greater the opportunity for the student to thrive and succeed. So, for example, my office, each member of our staff averaged somewhere in the ballpark of 500 student meetings a year. Most of those meetings, 75 to 80% of those meetings, are about mentoring, personal concerns, academic advising, personal advising, things along that line. A very small number of those are related to conduct or things along that line. But the vast majority of the relationships that we build with students are mentoring relationships. And so from our the way that I really, boots on the ground, what Richmond College is about is the opportunity for a student to interact with a dean, as Tanisha was saying, is that they will know who we are. And they'll see us on campus, and they'll interact with us in a variety of ways during their 4 years here.
So thank you. We are at a point where we need to set this room up for the next session. I'm going to ask our panelists if they will go on the outside to the green, kind of spread around, so that you can then follow up with them and ask additional individual questions. But we'll all be going out the back doors, and they'll be in the green for a little while. Thank you.